As technology advances and social media becomes a primary mode of communication for many, some seniors may struggle to effectively communicate with their colleagues, grandchildren, or millennials in particular. Some of the communication mishaps can be funny and may even end up being a topic of conversation at family gatherings, but they can also be incredibly frustrating for older adults. Joining us now to talk about communication challenges among generations is Wendy Ox, Solutions Project Coordinator for Studer Group. Hi, Wendy. Welcome to Coming of Age. We're so excited to have you this morning.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm happy to be here.
Well, to get us started, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and why this topic of generational differences is just so interesting?
Certainly. Well, I'm in my fourth year now as Solutions Coordinator at Studer Group, which means I coordinate teams of people who are trying to help their organizations to improve by adopting Studer Group tactics and Studer Group principles and various technologies that accelerate and help grow their own teams. I, for the past 20 years, have worked with a variety of age groups, for a long time with age groups similar to my own. However, in the past several years, I've worked with a variety of age groups, and I've noticed more and more that the challenges of working on teams that have a variety of age groups are vast. There really are many challenges involved, and I've been very, very interested in seeing how those teams can come together and work as effectively as possible. So it's really become a huge interest for me.
Great. Well, we know that everybody can't be boxed into a particular category, but can you kind of briefly describe what each generation might be characterized by?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you said that we can't really box people in, because that's an important piece to me. However, in a nutshell, we have, as you said, many generations, particularly at this point, 4 generations working together in today's workplace. We have the traditionalists, and that group, we generally say, was born between 25 and 46. And that group is generally characterized as having been born in a more challenging financially and political time period. They have a life experience that includes World War II. They tend to be a little bit more focused in the workplace. They're very focused on organizational loyalty. This is a group that doesn't tend to like change. They're not very risk tolerant, and they generally have a real respect for authority in the workplace. So you have that traditional group of people. Then, of course, you have this very large group, and this is the largest group working right now, and that's the baby boomer group. We call them the boomers in the workplace. This group was born between 46 and 64. And they grew up in a very different environment. This was a very politically different environment, and they had a more abundant, calmer, financially calm environment. So they tended to be a more egocentric generation and really characterized by work being their most important thing. You'll find that boomers, of which I am one, are very focused on making sure their work gets done. 9 to 5 is absolutely important to them, and they're really characterized by what they do in the workplace. So they come off of a different, a different respectful, focused approach than the traditionalists. However, comparing them to the Generation X, who was born between 65 and 80, Generation X comes along as the first generation, you might imagine, who had to-do lists. Generation X grew up with a very different family life. This was the generation whose moms went to work. This was the generation who was left alone a little bit more. Therefore, Generation X has a more independent approach. This is the generation that was first introduced to technology in the workplace. Those in their 30s and 40s who are in the workplace today tend to be quite different than the baby boomer generation in the sense that they don't need as much direction. And by the way, for those of you who are in the 30s and 40s, you'll notice that they do not have quite as much focus on the organization as our baby boomers did. Generation X absolutely wants a good work-life balance. You'll find at 5 o'clock, while our baby boomers are still saying, I'm still at work because the project's not complete yet, our Generation X says, I have a home life and I'm leaving. So there is a very big difference between X and the baby boomers. And then, of course, we have Generation Y. And Generation Y was born anywhere between 1981 and maybe 2000. And they make up a very large portion of our workplace today. And Generation Y takes us in a whole different workplace advantage because this is the technology generation. When Generation Y comes into the workplace, they are completely on the go. They're used to all of the attachments that technology can bring and really have a very different focus on work life. They are similar to our traditionalists and to our baby boomers in the sense that they do enjoy attachments to the organization. However, on a certain level, they're quite different because they expect things to happen very, very quickly. So
and it's such an interesting topic, and I know that personally, as a millennial, I faced my own challenges communicating with some of those other generations, and I'm sure we could talk forever and ever about it because it is so interesting.
Indeed.
But what resources are out there for folks that maybe are interested in team building opportunities for their workplace and engaging and interacting and overcoming those challenges among the generations?
So a great question. What's really important to remember, because we can describe these generations forever, is that the resources we're focused on now is learning to communicate best. The challenges that I see over and over again in the workplace is learning to figure out what really works best when you communicate well. The resources that I'm thinking about now are learning from the organizations that teach them the best, how to communicate from one generation to the next, and to not get locked in, really not get locked into one communication style. For those baby boomers who are faced with supervising those who are in the Y generation or those who are younger than they are, we need to think hard about what we can learn from that generation so that we can supervise them in the way they need to be supervised. For Generation Y, we need to think hard about what can our traditionalists and our boomers offer to us so that we don't lose that incredible wisdom that they have brought into the workplace. Resources that might be available, we have organizations locally like SHRM, S-H-R-M, who are offering all kinds of training on generational differences. We have the Association for Talent Management, also in our area locally. They have local chapters, they have national chapters. I absolutely encourage people to utilize that kind of training. But bottom line is not to lock ourselves into thinking that the way that we supervise, the way that we provide feedback to all of our generations needs to be the same. They really need to be varied depending on the generation.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Again, what an interesting topic. We could talk forever about it, and we thank you so much for coming on the show and telling us about generational differences.
Thank you, Rachel. Loved it. Thanks so much.